Today, I want to share with you how to get booked on podcasts. So yesterday in my BTMS Insiders membership, I did a monthly Insiders call. And that's the monthly call where I get on and do a focus training on one particular topic for an hour. And what I did, actually based on requests from some of my members, was I had previously mentioned that I have created a podcast PR blueprint. This is basically how to get booked on podcasts. And it is really a step-by-step method for making yourself a perfect guest for podcasts and connecting with podcasts and getting on the shows and making sure that your appearance on the shows goes great. And while I can't go into all the detail that I was able to cover in an hour yesterday, what I wanted to do today is yesterday was like an executive summary of something that could go much, much deeper. And today I'd like to do the executive summary of the executive summary and share with you some critical points for how to get booked on podcasts. So that's what we're going to cover in today's episode.
These are the proven direct response marketing, copywriting, and entrepreneurship success strategies you can use today to write your own ticket and create the life you want. I am Roy Furr, and this is Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. Now, here's today's breakthrough.
Okay, so first off, if you want to get booked on podcasts, what you need to do is really turn yourself into a perfect guest. So I took some notes as part of putting together the podcast PR blueprint, what makes a perfect guest. And I've come at this from both perspectives, from the perspective of being the host of a podcast and interviewing people, as well as from being somebody who tries to be the perfect guest for the podcast that I have appeared on. And so what makes a perfect guest? Well, a perfect guest makes the hosts and producers' jobs easy. So oftentimes a podcast, there could be a producer involved, there could be a host involved, there could be more people than that involved, but usually that's the two core people that you're going to interact with. And so you, as the perfect guest, you make their job easy. The easier you make their job, the more that you are going to be liked and the better you're going to be treated as a guest. Perfect guest also makes the host and producer look good for having the guest on. The perfect guest creates compelling content for current listeners, as well as adding quality content to the podcast archive for people to discover later. The perfect guest adds status to the show for having been a guest, both through the quality of content and as you develop a reputation, status for merely being you and being on the show. The perfect guest provides silver-platter show ideas that are a fit for the podcast listeners. So provides actual show ideas and content that make it easy for the host and producer to say yes. The perfect guest gives the producer and host everything they need for the show to be a success. So the host and producer are going to chase you down if they need something from you, but it's even better if you're able to give it to them ahead of time or have it ready for the moment they ask for it. And the perfect guest shows up on time and ready to record. Now, I've broken down the podcast PR blueprint into 4 P's: preparation, placement, performance, and promotion. Preparation, placement, performance, and promotion. And I'm going to go through those just really quick here because there's not time in a daily episode to go through and go deep on every single element. But basically, when you do these 4 Ps, when you do your preparation, and this is like before you're even trying to get booked on podcasts, the preparation that you do. When you do your preparation, it's helping you be a perfect guest. When you do the placement right, it's helping you be a perfect guest. When you do the performance right, it's helping you be a perfect guest. And when you do the promotion right, it's helping you be a perfect guest. It all adds up to contributing to you being that perfect guest on podcasts. So, number 1, they love your episode. Number 2, they want you to come back. Number 3, your episode makes a great example for other podcasts to want to book you in the future. Number 4, you actually get the results, the business results that you want from being on podcasts. And, there's probably a number 5 and number 10 and number 50 for all the benefits that this provides, but we're not going to go into all that detail. So preparation, kind of the executive summary of the executive summary here. Number one, you do need to know your ideal audience. You need to know who you're going to go after, not just who those people are, who the audience is for the podcast, for your message, but who the podcasts are that speak to that audience. And so you need to know your ideal audience from those two perspectives. You need to build out your perfect guest bio, and there's a lot that goes into that and into the production of that. But basically, you need to be able to provide a bio to the host, to the producer, and say, hey, this is me, and here's why I'm a perfect guest for your show, and here is how you can present me in the way that makes it clear to your audience that I have something of value to provide for them. You need to create consumable content, which it's those silver-platter show ideas that I talked about. You need to create content that you are bringing to the host, to the producer on a silver platter. And you're saying, here, I think this is a perfect fit for your audience based on what I know about your show. Would you be interested? You need to nail your no pressure offer. So if you actually want to get business result, any kind of results, if you want people to take action as a result of listening to your guest appearance on whatever podcast you are a guest on, you need to have a no pressure offer at the end to direct them to. You also need to gear up. That means having quality gear such that the recording of you on the podcast is going to be high quality. Okay, so that's preparation. Placement, you need to connect with the shows, and that's going to be connected back to that know your ideal audience that I talked about in the beginning. And I gave, I have specific methodologies about how to pick out the best shows to be on and what to, the kind of thinking that goes into which shows you're going to connect with first and which ones you might wait a little bit to connect with, etc. For placement, you need to signal your guest quality. And this is all about how you present yourself. This is all about how you show up. This is all about how you are connecting with the podcast hosts and producers. So signal your guest quality and secure the booking. And this isn't just about, hey, what's the day on the calendar that works for recording? There's actually a lot more to it. And it's like, I don't do a lot of fishing now. Actually, I don't love fishing, but I did a lot of fishing growing up. And one of the things that happens with fishing is when you first get the fish nibbling on the bait and nibbling, when you can tell that there's a fish pulling on your hook, what you need to do is you actually need to set the hook. And that means you pull tighter. So when you're just talking about setting the date, or when you're just talking about like arranging, okay, here's the booking, like let's set a date on the calendar. That's just like the nibble, right? If you really want your podcast, your appearance to go well, what you need to do is you need to set the hook. And there's a lot more that goes into that in terms of securing the booking. So we've covered preparation, we've covered placement. Up next is performance. And it really helps to be able to speak like an expert, speak like the expert that you are. And there are some very specific suggestions that I have around that, including, something as simple. Way back in the day, actually not that long ago, when I started to teach marketing and copywriting, I used a lot of ums and ahs, pretty much every sentence, every other sentence. And I still use them. And I still use filler words. I have dramatically decreased the amount of ums and ahs and filler words that I use. And when I go back and I listen, even though the content then was maybe just as good as the content that I put out today when it was spoken, it really is kind of painful to listen to. It's painful to listen because there are so many ums and ahs. And the quality of the entire presentation goes up so much when you're able to manage that. Now, that's just one little bit of guidance in terms of speaking like an expert. And there's a lot more to it than that. However, when it comes down to your performance, even something as simple as that can significantly detract from your message. And then deliver the value that you promise. Deliver the value that you promise. So prior to getting on the show, one of the things that you did with presenting your silver platter show idea was that you promised a bunch of value for getting on their podcast. And you have to make sure that you deliver on that value in order for the show to go well. And then it is really important for guests who really have connected with you and who are interested in learning more to know where they can go to get more resources. So the last part of your performance is offering more resources. And there's a good way to do that, and there's a bad way to do that. And if you do it the bad way, you can completely invalidate all the good things that you've done throughout the entire podcast. And so I do strongly recommend that you think about how you are offering more resources in order for your performance to end on a high note and to attract the most engaged listeners to you. And then promotion. And here I'm not talking about promoting yourself on the podcast. This is what you do after the recording is done. Number one, you need to follow up with the host to make it clear that you are happy to promote your appearance on their podcast, and just to make sure that they have everything that they need for that. And number two, promote the episode. You have an audience, however big or small, and it is very beneficial to the host, and it makes you into more of a perfect guest when you actually promote your episodes that you have been on their podcast. And it is actually really beneficial to you as well to be promoting every episode that you are on, or as many as possible. Maybe not everywhere, maybe not being like, front center stage, depending on what you do in your business, but promoting your episode is highly valuable. So, going back through that what makes a perfect guest list, when we walked through preparation, placement, performance, and promotion, what makes a perfect guest? You make the host and producer's jobs easy. That's done throughout that process. You make the host and producer look good for having the guest on. You create compelling content for current listeners, and you add quality content to the podcast archive. You add status to the show for having been a guest. You provide silver platter show ideas that are a fit for the podcast listeners. You give the producer and host everything they need for the show to be a success. And you show up on time and ready to record, so you're not wasting anybody's time. And when you do all these things, and so it's one thing to do all these things. Like, going through all these steps is important, and it helps to get booked on lots of shows. And at the same time, like, doing all these things together really just creates a total experience of you as the guest that makes it so, hey, this is somebody that is great to have on shows, and it can dramatically increase your ability to get booked on the next show and the next show and the next show and the next show. So if you want to get booked on podcasts, number one, just follow what I've told you here. But number two, if you want to go deeper into, if you want to go one layer deeper into all of this content, I would recommend, I'll include a link in the description to the Monthly Insiders call page on BTMS Insiders, where you can actually where you can get the recording of the Monthly Insiders call. It's the May 2021 Monthly Insiders call on the podcast PR Blueprint, and I go through for an hour, going at least one level deeper on all of these items, and even sharing examples of some of the critical elements that have gone into my own implementation of the podcast PR Blueprint. So, with that, I am Roy Furr. This has been your daily episode of Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. And if you're not yet subscribed to get Breakthrough Marketing Secrets episode alerts by email, be sure that you go to breakthroughmarketingsecrets.com and sign up for my email list there. You'll get the episode notifications as well as exclusive new content for email subscribers. Again, I'm Roy Furr for Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. I always aim for a 10 out of 10 value. I hope that I've delivered it here, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next episode. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you once again for tuning in to this daily episode of Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. Remember, check out the links with this episode for even more value. Now make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and engage in every way you can to keep this show going and growing and delivering daily value to you. I'll catch you soon for your next big breakthrough.